I have often been accused of being, well, an ARCA farmer, and those accusations might not be baseless, but I'm going to show today that I do know what it's like to be on pit road. In fact, I know what it's like to be on the 9 weirdest pit roads in all of iRacing, so let's jump right in and change those tires, I guess. At number 9 is the pit road at the Legacy Charlotte Infield road course. This pit road is going to be the most normal shape that you'll see on the list today, as this is just a straight line, but the weird thing about this pit road is how it's laid out and how you enter and exit it. Getting onto this pit road requires taking a hard right 90-degree turn right after a chicane with almost no notice to anybody who may be following behind you. And as for pit road itself, there is room for a whopping total of 44 pit stalls on this pit road. And how does it achieve this on this short and straight road? They put pit stalls on both sides of the track. To my knowledge, this is the only time that this happens in iRacing, and it's really funny. I couldn't test this out with friends because I couldn't get enough people to show up, but I was able to change the INI file to actually line myself up on one of the left side pit stalls to confirm, yes, there is pit stalls on both sides of pit road. I can't imagine the traffic jam that would come out of pitting under caution here. And finally, getting off of pit road is somehow even more perilous than getting onto pit road because you're taking a hard right onto incoming traffic right into another hairpin. If you somehow find yourself in a race with live pit stops at this track, I would say turn on your blinker or maybe use an arm signal to get off of pit road. At number 8, we have Bristol dual pits. I think a lot of NASCAR fans really take for granted how weird Bristol dual pit road layout actually is. To my knowledge, this is the only case in all of iRacing where there is more than one pit road, as in, there is more than one place to enter the pits and more than one place to exit the pits. The pit roads themselves are actually really straightforward. There's not too much different about them on their own compared to other NASCAR pit roads, and they can fit the entire NASCAR field onto their pit roads. But it's very easy, especially in a green flag situation, to forget which pit road you're actually entering. There is a single pit road configuration of Bristol where everyone always enters in the same place and you pretty much have to pace around the entire track before leaving, but that's pretty par for the course for short tracks, especially on the NASCAR side of things. The dual pit road configuration really makes these green flag stops a lot more streamlined and convenient, but at the cost of being really confusing in some certain situations. Depending on what pit stall you're lined up in, your entrance to pit road under caution might be different than under green flag conditions. And entering in the wrong place might lead to either a black flag or just missing out on a ton of time because you're essentially doubling the length of your pit stop. Overall, I understand why Bristol dual pit roads exist, but at the same time, my small brain sometimes wishes we could just run single pits everywhere. So as a rule for this video, I didn't include dirt or dirt road pits because they don't have live pit stops in their races, but there is one kind of exception to this. At number 7, we have Hell RX Road Short. If you watched a previous video, you might have seen my showcase on the track itself, where I actually covered pit road a bit, but there's something about this pit road that's even weirder than I initially thought in that video. Now, I'm not sure if it's been updated since I released this video, but I could have sworn that the pit road was actually dirt. But when I went back on it for this video, the texture of the pits are dirt, but the surface itself is actually asphalt to match the rest of the track. This leads to being able to do some really weird things on this surface that just look wrong, like take a look at this burnout. Another weird aspect of this pit road is that even though it has a very long entrance and seems to have an ample amount of room, there is actually only 6 spots for pit stalls on this pit road, which is actually the second least amount of pit stalls in this entire list. Overall though, the shape itself is pretty normal, and even though it looks like dirt, being an asphalt pit road also makes it kind of normal, but it's just the little quirks about it that puts it a little bit higher on this list. One of the funny things about sim racing is that we can race on tracks that don't traditionally have live setting pit stops, and because of that, iRacing has to force a pit road into the situation so that these live racing situations could be enabled, in theory. In practice though, they just come up with some of the weirdest shapes that you've ever seen for a pit road that obviously just look out of place. At number 6, we have COTA East. Make sure to take out your GPS for this one because we're going to need to take about 5 turns to get on and off of pit road here. The entrance of pit road is a sharp left turn right after you overshoot turn 6 of the main course, but don't go too far because you'll barrel into some cones that would lead you to the rest of the full course. And while that is kind of weird and very awkward to drive in a race setting, the weirdest part about this pit road has to be the actual lane itself. Because there's no access to COTA's actual pit road, they have to use the west course, and specifically their little kink in the west course that would come up the center of the normal Grand Prix course as their actual pit lane. This makes for a very awkward pit road that you go over curbs, and some of the pit lanes might be on the little kink there, and you're pretty much parking on the grass for the pit stalls themselves. I can't blame iRacing for making this the pit road because there was literally nowhere else that this pit road could be that would make any sort of sense, but the overall execution and shape of it is just funny to me to think about doing this in a live pit stop setting. And next on the list is an old friend at number 5, the New Hampshire Legends Oval. Initially I was going to leave Legends Ovals out of this list because a lot of them have pretty weird ideas where you just kind of go way off the track and then back onto the track, but 2 Legends Ovals that I found really kind of buck that trend and in a very weird way, and that first one is the New Hampshire Legends Oval. The New Hampshire Legends Oval is a 12-stall pit road that takes up the entirety of the front stretch, but using the road course configuration from New Hampshire in order to achieve the pit road in the center of the course. And while its bends and curves for a pit road are kind of funny, especially when having to pit right on one, the weirdest part of this pit road has to be the 180-degree turn that you have to take to re-enter the track on turn 2, where you're pretty much just running parallel with the people running 1 and 2 normally, except there's a barrier between you and them, and you get to shortcut the entire corner. Overall, this janky pit road is a perfect match for this janky Legends Oval, but it really limits the cars that can be on there because a lot of these cars can't even make it off pit road without a 3-point turn. Heading straight to number 4 is another Legends Oval that you might recognize from another video, and that is the Las Vegas Infield Legends Oval. This extremely small pit road only has room for 7 stalls on it, but the weirdest part about it has to be the entry to the pit road itself, because there are 2 access roads coming off of turn 4, and you can only take the second one if you want to avoid getting an off track to get onto pit road. But at the same time, by the way it looks, you can just drive onto pit road, but without making that sharp right-hand turn on exactly the second access road, you're going to miss the entrance to pit road. This is another case of shoehorning a pit road for iRacing where obviously one doesn't exist in real life because there are never live pit stop settings in this track in real life, but at the same time there very well could be live pit stop settings in a race that somebody sets up for a league or a hosted or God forbid an official. This pit road really has it all, suffering from a weird shape, an unnatural pit lane itself, and a dangerous re-entry all in one. At number 3, we have our last friend from a previous video, and that would of course be the Knock Hill Tri-Oval. The Knock Hill Tri-Oval utilizes the normal Knock Hill pit road. Alright, cool, that's really normal, right? Wrong. In order to utilize the 17-stall pit road, you actually have to extend well beyond the track itself, leading to pit road being a longer distance than the track itself. And that's not even the stupidest part. Look at the pit road exit. This is the sharpest hairpin that you will find on sim racing. It is almost impossible to make a sharper 180-degree turn than this. And one more funny detail is that the pit stalls are all lined up vertically for road cars, but when you're in a live pit stop setting, which you can set up with any cars, you just park in multiple pit stalls, which also looks really funny. Overall, I see why they had to do this pit road, but something is wrong when the top speed on the track is reached on pit exit. And at number 2, we have VIR Patriot Course. I'll tell you what, this course really did make me feel like a patriot. It really captured the experience of stopping at a random gas station in the middle of nowhere. In fact, I'm not even going to call it a pit road, I'm just going to call it a pit. And this pit only has room for 4 stalls. You'd think they'd be courteous enough to have at least a Mountain Dew vending machine, but at least they have a couple porta potties nearby. But combine a super narrow pit entry with almost guaranteeing a 1x coming off of pit road because you're parking on the grass for your stop, and the only 4 pit stalls on pit road. This is one of the jankiest and funniest pit roads that you'll find on iRacing, but it is not the most cursed, and that's why we are going to go to number 1. So for number 1, we actually have a 4-way tie. So I want you to ask yourself what these 4 tracks have in common. Legacy Texas Road Short A, Red Bull North, Motorsports Arena C, and Nürburgring Grand Prix Streck Molenbachschleife. If your guess was that every one of these tracks has a pit road in the shape of an M, you've either already watched this video or you've seen me laughing about it in Discord for the past couple days. One of the funniest iRacing phenomenon that arises from using these short courses on larger tracks is that pit roads sometimes have to be combined with other courses, and a lot of these times they have turns that go the complete opposite direction of the flow of the short course. When this happens, the pit road in Sim is forced to be some sort of runoff area followed by a sharp 150-ish degree turn, followed by a curve back up, followed by another hairpin 150 degree turn to finally get onto pit road. The least offensive of these pit roads is Motorsports Arena C, where it's not as exaggerated of an M shape, but you still have to navigate the points of the M. Molenbachschleife is the next most offensive, where there aren't any barriers so that you can cut the points. But the points themselves aren't too bad and not that much worse than another right-hand turn that you would see at the COTA course, for instance. But the two worst offenders are first the Red Bull Ring, where you have to take sharp right turns and avoid a barrel right at the point of them in order to navigate onto pit road. Both of these feel like you're making hairpins each time to get onto pit road, followed by a long sweeping curve in between them. But taking the cake has to go to Legacy Texas Road Short A, because it's the same exact idea as the Red Bull course, but on a smaller scale, so everything feels even more confusing, more claustrophobic, the hairpins feel even tighter even though they're the same angle, and it's just so easy to get lost and confused on these pit roads. I mean, iRacing themselves doesn't even know how to handle these. I look at the Nürburgring pit road that doesn't even write it into the track map. But overall, for as silly as it is, how stupid it is to drive, I gotta commend iRacing for at least making something work in that scenario, because now it is at least possible to run races with live pit stops on all of these tracks. Not that anyone ever has or will, but at least the option is open, and that's what sim racing's all about. So hopefully I've beaten the accusations of not knowing about how pit road works on iRacing. Sure, I can't enter pit roads with the best of them, sure my launches could leave a lot to desired, but above all else, at least I can tell you how many pit stalls are on Legacy Texas Motor Speedway Road Course Short A. That's gotta be worth something, right? Right?